This is the podcast series on decision making of the Alege Center for Decision Research, Support and Education. I am Alexandra Gheondea-Eladi, co-founder of the Alege Center, and in this recording, I'd like to talk to you about how to manage emotions triggered by the news about war and to keep yourself informed. War is an emotionally difficult to manage context or situation, even if you're not directly involved in it at a given moment. The difficulty stems from the fact that the emotions can be very intense, and on the other hand, few people are able to manage them consciously, regardless of their intensity. At the same time, assuming we are well able to manage very intense emotions, a war happening somewhere close by is, from a decision-making point of view, an incredibly complex situation. In this situation, it is unclear what actions we can take to satisfy our needs. Also, it is probable that the success of those actions is often unknown or uncertain. The emotions which are most commonly hard to manage in this context are fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, disgust, or simply feeling bad. Thus, we need to confront two big problems. One is managing the emotions triggered by the news about the war, and the second is making decisions based on our own values and the information we have access to. In this audio, I would like to share a holistic psychosocial perspective of what you can do to process the fact that while you are not directly involved in the war, you are aware of its destructive potential and you might feel threatened from afar. To best manage this situation, we need to become aware that we consist of three parts: body, mind, and soul. Certain parts of the body and mind can be managed in a rigorous manner using scientific methods. The matters of the soul can be processed through spiritual methods, which depend on everyone's faith. With all of this in mind, it's important to become aware that in these moments, we need to take care of all our parts in different ways. Additionally, we need to accept that the necessary emotional and decisional support come from two different areas, each one using different methods. Let's talk about each one of them. How to take care of the body. Emotions and the body are deeply connected, so much that some researchers called them the body's thoughts. Emotions are not sensations or thoughts, but can be accompanied by both. Emotions are states, which everyone experiences differently in their own body. Some people are more aware of their emotions than others. Some can differentiate more nuances of each emotion and others less. However, everyone can develop their capacity in managing and differentiating emotions by learning about them and about themselves. A part of our body, our subconsciousness, is responsible for everything that happens in our body. Thus, when we talk about taking care of our body, we actually talk about taking care of the relationship between the subconsciousness and the body. The effort we make to process emotions will help us move from subconscious reactions to conscious reactions. The first step towards being able to manage a distant threat is putting the body to safety by anchoring yourself in the present. In doing so, it is important to become aware of and focus on everything we have in the present. The bed we sleep in, the air we breathe, the hot water we use, the food we eat, and so on. It is a time when we need to pay more attention and give more time to taking care of our body. It is about being there for ourselves, about paying attention when we experience a need, however small. We cannot postpone being there for ourselves in order to obtain something else. This does not mean we cut ourselves off from others, or that we do not think about the future or long-term objectives. It is about doing everything while being anchored in the present and aware of what surrounds us in the immediate proximity. Being anchored in the present means to be for a short time, but repeatedly, possibly every day, attentive to, for example, the touch of the wind, the air we breathe, how the tap water feels on our hands, how the keyboard feels when we type, what sounds surround us, and so on. Meeting long-term goals needs to be done while paying conscious attention to the present and the immediate resolution of the smallest issues, positioning the chair or the body, adjusting the computer, eating when we are hungry, drinking when we are thirsty, sleeping when we are tired, and so on. The second step in taking care of our body is becoming aware that every emotion we experience tells us about what we need to do. This means we have to identify the need behind this emotion and to meet that need. Emotions are the subconsciousness's call for action. Here I refer to the book by Heather Lench from 2018, The Functions of Emotions, When and Why Emotions Help Us. The difficulty usually lies in understanding what action is right and will satisfy the need we have. Here, self-awareness comes into play as we make decisions based on what we know about us and the world. Everyone's reaction to the threat of war is different. Everyone needs to take a decision which is right for them, depending on the spectrum of emotions they experience. Sadness stems from the perception of a loss, and behind it is a need to become close to others and to adapt to the new conditions. Anger stems from the perception of having one's boundaries crossed, and behind it is the need for a change of one's position, a change of a thinking perspective, or a change in the position of the other people in relation to the crossed boundary. Fear stems from the perception of an immediate threat, and behind it is the need for love towards oneself or other people, or from other people. Anxiety stems from the perception of a distant threat, and behind it is the need for safety. Behind every emotion lies a decision about what we can do to be in agreement with what we feel. Unfortunately, this is not a trivial choice, and often we can make a wrong decision as a result of the emotions we are experiencing. This is the reason why, for a very long time, philosophers and researchers recommended we do not take into consideration our emotions when we make a decision. Fortunately, now we know more about what actions are inefficient in processing emotions. Knowing this, everyone is responsible for understanding what action is right for them. Unfortunately, this short video does not allow us to explore that part further. How to take care of the mind. Once we have placed our body in a safe place, anchored it in the present, and become aware of the safety of the present moment, and we have identified the actions to be done to meet the needs behind the emotions we feel, we can focus on our mind, seen as a conscious part of our psyche. From this point of view, our conscious mind needs to do what our subconsciousness cannot do, namely, learn about new situations and help us adapt to changing conditions. The biggest problem we all face is that searching for new information in itself can generate high-intensity emotions. These need to be managed outside the actual activity of learning and looking for information. Thus, when we look for information, we can discover that we need to take a break in order to process some emotions triggered by new information. We will discuss methods which can be used in those particular situations. But before we do that, I would like to clarify why we need to look for new information and to learn. Firstly, we face a new situation which has the potential to affect us in unexpected ways. Secondly, we might need to act quickly in the immediate future. The profound understanding of the situation can help us make a decision in accordance with our values and provide us with the living conditions we need in the future. At this stage, it is important to understand that exposure to images and content of big emotional impact helps us neither to live well ourselves nor to help those who need our help. What makes us provide help to others is our values and our ability to protect ourselves and to keep ourselves safe. We need to understand that if our subconsciousness or we feel ourselves feel threatened, the probability we will be able to help others is very small, on whichever side of the argument we might find ourselves on. This does not mean we are selfish, as it might be interpreted, nor it is sad or mean. This is a basic principle when we want to help others. Thirdly, the purpose of looking for information is to help our mind understand both sides of the conflict. The purpose of looking for information is not to find reasons for which we should take one side or the other, but to find resources necessary to understand and love both sides. Neither side wins anything through a war. Even if based on some criteria, one side wins, both sides actually lose based on other criteria. As outsiders who might be drawn into the conflict, we need to be able to engage both sides into a dialogue, an empathic, profound dialogue, which, as it does not judge anyone, can inspire peaceful reconciliation when both sides are ready for it. It does not mean we are anyone's savior or that we want to become one. It means that trying to understand both sides helps us help ourselves as well as others. Now that we know why we need to keep ourselves informed, we need to become aware that at this stage we are facing two difficulties. The first one is to deal with strong emotions triggered by a given piece of information, and the second one to continue trying to understand both sides. Here is what we can do to overcome those two difficulties. Both for the need to be informed and for our emotional needs, we should decide on a fixed amount of time at a time interval which we consider to be appropriate for ourselves in order to manage both our emotions and the search for information regarding the new situation, war in this case. 1 hour a day, 1 hour every 2 days, or 2 hours a week. Anything you choose and is appropriate for you is good enough. First, look for several sources of information that you can trust. If you cannot find them, read from as many sources as you can. This list needs to be varied and include information sources with different views. Do not limit yourself to what confirms your own views or to what contradicts them. Avoid secondary sources of information, but if you want to read secondary analysis, search for the sources of the data and always think about what pieces of information might have been left aside intentionally, as well as to the assumptions the text makes. And yes, this is not an easy task. Third, from an emotional point of view, the objective is to take care of yourself while you keep yourself informed. One method of doing this is to give yourself time before beginning the reading or viewing or listening, to situate yourself in a researcher's role. In this role, you are detached, but at the same time aware of your own emotions and ready to act immediately to satisfy your needs. Fourth, read in a controlled manner, time-wise, or on a fixed number of articles from each source. You can either choose a relatively equal number of articles to read, or choose a fixed amount of time to read from each source. From an informational point of view, this provides you with a sampling unit. From an emotional point of view, this provides you with a way to control your exposure to emotional triggers. Place very clear boundaries of time and number of exposures and respect them. As long as you keep to the unit you have chosen, for example, to read 1 hour a day or to read 4 articles from every chosen source, you will not lose a lot of information and will also take care of yourself. When you feel a certain emotion, the first thing you should do is not judge yourself for it. The second thing you should do when you feel an emotion is to stop and be aware of what you feel. Here you can name what you feel or write it along the text you are reading in a separate file or notebook as you go through each text, video, or audio. If you're not used to name or to stop in order to recognize what you feel, you can use a wheel of emotions to help you recognize what you feel instead of naming it yourself. If by any chance you experience your body's emotions together with sensations, become aware of the place in your body and the type of sensation you feel. A weight on your chest, difficulty breathing, something in your stomach, and so on. The third step is to allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you are feeling from that emotion. Do not block it. Live it without an interpretation as good, bad, proof that you are this or that others are this or that. Live the emotion knowing that you are feeling these things because you are alive, and also that it will go away at a certain time, possibly not very far away. Fourth, do not prolong or fuel your emotion by exaggerating certain body behaviors, like clenching your fists when you feel anger, tightening the muscles when you're afraid, and so on. Or by not accepting that you are no longer affected by something which you think you should be affected by. Do not prolong the emotion to avoid feeling shameful that something does not affect you from the things you think should affect you. Then, move your body. When experiencing intense emotions, make a few moves to straighten your back. Go on your static bike, if you own one. Jump around the room you're in. Stretch. Don't feel ashamed to move your body as it asks you to. Do not judge yourself for the moves you feel like making. If you are in a group or near people who might judge you for your body moves as a result of your emotions, give yourself the space and intimacy you need to make the necessary moves without judgment or bother about making others feel uncomfortable. Breathe deeply a few times and think of nothing. Fix your attention on a point in your body where you don't feel any sensation, and breathe deeply, focusing on this point. Notice what happens with the sensations you have been feeling. You will see that they disappear. Then remember a moment in which you learned something useful in a pleasant way. Remember how you felt at that time and bring that state of mind to the present. Remember that today, as before, you need to understand what is happening in order to understand how to act in your best interest and to support your mind in understanding both sides of the conflict. Then, remember a moment in which you learned something useful in a pleasant way. Remember how you felt at that time and bring that state of mind to the present. After this, keep looking for information, aiming to understand and to learn. In this moment, the purpose is to look for as many sources as you can and see what is common and what is different in these sources. You want to give yourself the opportunity to have an objective view of reality. Ask yourself, what are the assumptions of this piece of news? What is presented as irrefutable? Is it really like that? What kind of things could be missing from an image or a piece of text? After each unit of time allocated for searching for information, give yourself 10 minutes to think about the general conclusions as rigorously as you can. Ask yourself, what is common in all the sources? What differs from source to source? Which of these pieces of information serve the ideological affiliation of the source? For example, if a paper abides to the political left or right, ask yourself which of the information presented is in line with this affiliation. And were you able to verify the sources of this text? Or do they seem to be untraceable? Finally, after this period of time in which you have made an emotional effort, plan an equally long time to listen to your emotions, to become aware of them, and to soothe your body for this effort. You can listen to your own emotions by writing them, verbalizing them to yourself or to your friend. Paying attention that your friend agrees, is able to, and knows how to listen to your emotions without judging them or finding solutions for them unless you specifically ask them to. Give yourself a reward and be kind. Do not judge yourself for anything you have felt. After this time, when you are ready, you can begin any other activity. With the support of these emotional tools, you will be able to follow what you read while paying attention to the feelings you experience. Also, you will be able to process these emotions without blocking out the information or losing the ability to adapt your actions to the situation. How to take care of our soul. If you're not conscious of your soul, or you have no relationship with a divine being, you will most likely not find this part useful, and you can stop here. This is not a problem in any way. Everyone has the right to have their own opinion about this subject. Our aim is not to judge anyone. If you are conscious of your soul and you have a relationship with a divine being, I'd like to invite you to continue listening. The science is unable to offer you suggestions on how to take care of your soul. Only a religion, a spiritual approach, and your own beliefs can guide you. However, spirituality plays an important role in the decision-making process as it is described in science. Therefore, when you are not in the middle of a war, but you feel its destructive potential and you feel threatened from afar, I suggest you focus on any faith, religion, or spiritual practice which you trust. From the point of view of decision-making, spirituality can offer you confidence and help you separate what you can control from what you cannot. These practices offer trust that everything is the way it should be, that there is a divine order to which we can entrust everything we cannot control in our lives, while exercising our free will over things we can control. This trust is essential if you want to move on, if you want to continue life, if we want to overcome moments of great ambiguity or lack of control over external conditions. Pray, meditate, start or restart without any sense of shame or guilt the rituals which you have abandoned in the past and the ones which you have wanted to start but did not have time to. Have confidence in a good, non-vengeful deity which does not punish but forgives, which understands, which is there for you, and which loves everyone independently of the choices they make. Trust that this unconditional love is justified on a level which we are sometimes able to understand and other times we cannot comprehend. Trust that this unconditional love comes from a God which you belong to and which is present in you. Therefore, this faith and trust are essential in order to be able to move on, to adapt, to learn about the new situation, to deal with all the challenges, and to make decisions in accordance with your values and decisions that will also benefit everyone. To sum up, in order to be able to emotionally deal with the threat of war or its impact on close-by areas, we have at our disposal many tools. Some of them are based on science, some on spirituality. We also need to take care of all three parts of ourselves: our bodies, our minds, and our souls. In order to be able to make the best possible decisions from the point of view of the current context and our own values, we need to continue to look for information of the best possible quality. We need to come to the most realistic conclusions. In this way, we will be able to take action at the right moment and to understand both sides of the conflict. With this, I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week.